Attorney General, the former AG, William Barr, may get disbarred. And yes, Matt Gaetz, he's still headed to the pokey. Let me give you some background. Last week, a Washington Court of Appeals ruled that the former Attorney General, Bill Barr, did in fact lie. He lied about Donald Trump's involvement in special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russia involvement in the 2016 campaign cycle. Just days prior to the report being released, Barr said that he'd read the report and Trump did nothing wrong. Now, let me take you back to that scene in American history. The Mueller report is now complete. But instead of it being submitted to the public directly, it was submitted to the DOJ, which was under Trump's control by way of William Barr. William Barr, instead of releasing the entire transcript or summary to the public, he decided to go through and redact particular portions and not expose them to the public. But before submitting the redacted version, he created a narrative. Bill Barr went on local news, national news, and talked about how Trump was innocent. He basically did not turn down any invite whatsoever. He did this for a period of time. And then after the spin was in, released the heavily redacted document. Now a judge has declared what he did was in fact dishonest. The reason why that's important and the reason why I could get him disbarred is because basically what William Barr has done is the same thing that Giuliani was accused of doing, in a sense. It caused Giuliani to get his law license revoked. He does not have the ability to practice law any longer. The Justice Department released the memo on Trump's obstruction of Mueller's probe, revealing that it was more than clear he believed that Trump committed a crime in several cases when he tried to obstruct justice. Speaking to MSNBC about the release of the memo on Wednesday, former Mueller prosecutor Andrew Weissman explained that the memo, penned by Barr's two top deputies, Stephen Engel and Ed O'Callaghan, provides new evidence that Barr covered up for Trump. Now, we said this in the beginning. We said, listen, the spin is in. What Barr is doing is setting a table, setting a stage, providing pretext so that he can justify the context. There's more. Essentially, it lays out a lot of what was redacted, talking about the memo. And we know it was heavily redacted from this before it lays out the basis, explained NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley. It does seem to be making, in many ways, what amounts to a defense argument for Trump in a lot of these cases. There's one line in here regarding the line where this was former FBI Director Comey telling the president that he hoped that he could let this go. And they actually write in here that it was not directing a quote, clearly directed particular action in the Flynn investigation, and Comey did not react at the time as though he had received a direct order from the president. It was Weissman who gave information, inside information, into what he experienced while working for Mueller. The report made it clear that there were at least 10, count them, 10 instances of obstruction of justice by the former president. Barr, on the other hand, wrote there was no obstruction. Now remember, Mueller said, well, we can't prosecute a sitting president based on a memo created under the Nixon administration from the Department of Justice. Mueller went on to state something that was factually inaccurate. Mueller said that it would in fact be unconstitutional to prosecute a sitting president of the United States of America. The Constitution does not provide such language nor context. The DOJ provided a memo many years ago in order to protect Nixon himself. That memo has remained intact as far as an office policy. But that memo has absolutely no bearing on the United States Constitution. There was nowhere in the Constitution that says the president is above the law, above prosecution, above indictment, et cetera, et cetera. Now, would it create a slippery slope? Of course it would, but we're already on the slope and we are slipping. That's happening right now. Now, 8 people with direct knowledge about Matt Gaetz. Let's go to Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz was under investigation during the time of the administration. Nothing has happened yet. But 8 people with direct knowledge of the probe confirmed to the Daily Beast that the case against Matt Gaetz is still unfolding, albeit a methodical pace, as federal prosecutors work their way across a number of spokespeople of possible criminality, while each zone has its own set of witnesses, subjects, and targets. All of it spirals from one man, a crooked local tax official, and Gaetz' former wingman, Joel Greenberg. Remember, Joel Greenberg was the Seminole County tax collector. This was the bestie of Matt Gaetz, and according to sources, he's singing like a bird. So this new report comes out confirmed by 8 individuals connected to the investigation, saying that while it has been a slow roll, this investigation is still very much so moving forward. And one of the narratives that came out of this was that when you come after somebody like Matt Gaetz, you gotta make sure that everything is done right. All your T's are crossed, I's are dotted. So I fully expect there to be an announcement at some point in the very near future that Matt Gaetz is in fact indicted. All right, that's your update. Jackson, thoughts here?
So I think, one of the most important things for people to keep in mind is that keep Trump from legal consequences of any kind for the situation that he was facing. And basically the way that Donald Trump has gone about his life for many decades, including his father, who obviously was better at it, but is finding people, whether it be lawyers or different types of people under the table who can get them out of trouble, because a lot of what they do is criminal enterprise. So, now that the walls are kind of collapsing around Donald Trump in a lot of ways. Obviously, he still is, the front runner in the Republican Party. But, as he's weakening, the people around him are starting to weaken as well. So Bill Barr, I guess he just didn't really gamble and weigh out the consequences properly. And so now he's facing the music, basically. And just when it comes to Matt Gaetz, he's definitely a powerful person and a powerful family, more importantly. So, the FBI is right. They got to have everything right if they come for him, because if they don't, then he could definitely get away with this, because it's not like he's facing a million cases like Donald Trump is.
Yeah.
So if they don't get it just right, then he'll get away with it scot-free, because he did just win his election by over 40 percentage points, despite all the hot water that he's in.
You make a great point, and you have to remember the federal court is still subject to state citizens, meaning if they take him to court, they're gonna have to choose individuals to serve on the jury who are from the state of Florida, where he is obviously still very popular. Okay,